Hello everybody. In the last video I replaced the second gear of my Honda XRV 750 Africa Twin. This bugger here that has some deep pittings that made some bad knocking sounds. And then I rode up to the North Cape. Today I'm taking a ride in the mountains of Skjomen, close to Narvik, which is a hidden gem, I personally think. So just cue the intro. So the bike has been sitting for close to 4 weeks, and I'm curious to see how it's going to start. It's now mid-November and it's like 0 degrees outside, so we'll see. Must be okay. So welcome back on the Africa Twin. We are now in the end of September, and I took a day off just to take a ride on the bike. This morning it was just 2 degrees outside, so this reminds me that I have to replace the heated grips. I got the Oxford heated grips, but they're not working anymore, so that's something I have to fix. We are now getting close to Narvik, and this is the Hålogaland Bridge, which is the second longest suspension bridge in Norway. It was built in 2018 by a Chinese entrepreneur, and the bridge is 1533 meters long. From where I live, it's around 110 kilometers into Elvegård in Skjomen, where the mountain road starts, and from Narvik it's around 33 kilometers into Elvegård. The roads I'm going to ride on is built by the Norwegian state, because there is a huge hydro plant up there. So up here in Northern Norway there are very few mountain roads where you are allowed to ride or drive a car or anything. So I was really happy when I discovered this area some 4 or 5 years ago. The Norwegian state is really trying to protect the Norwegian nature, maybe a little too much. So the smallest fine you will get if you are catched by the police, well, if you are riding illegal in the outback, is around 12,000 kroners or 1,200 euros. So that's some pretty hefty fines you will get. In southern Norway there are more legal roads that are toll roads. So there are some small turnpikes or toll booths, so that you can pay around 50 kroners and then you can ride on certain roads. So that's a nice thing. I wish there was more of that here in Northern Norway, but since there are much fewer people here, it ain't gonna happen. So that's the way it is. Now we are starting the ascent up to the mountains. There are lots of hairpin turns here, so that's really nice. As you can see, there is a tarmac in the beginning, and the only reason for that is that it's built by the Norwegian state. They also maintain this road, so it's in a pretty good shape. I am now going up in what is called Norddalen. This is where you will find the longest road. that goes up to Båtsvatn, and the total distance from where you start in the beginning is around 28 kilometers, I think, if I don't remember incorrectly. You can also go up to Tjordavannet, which is just a few kilometers shorter. If you go to Tjordavatnet, you will actually be riding into Sweden several times, and you can see the border pins several places, so that's kind of cool. There is also an intersection that goes into Sweden, but that's strictly forbidden because it's in the beiteområda terrain, or grazing area according to Google, grazing area for Rudolph the reindeer. So if you go there, you will have some hefty fines if you are catched by the police, so don't recommend doing that. I have been up in these mountains several times, also in the middle of the summer, and it's very little people here as far as I have experienced, so I really like that, the feeling of being in the wild nature. And normally I just bring some food and something to drink and find a place to sit down and just enjoy the silence and the nature. And I am that kind of guy who can enjoy the nature in both a motorized way and old-fashioned hiking in the mountain way, because I really love to hike in the mountains in summer, which I do a lot. So I guess in one way I'm kind of promoting this place now, so maybe I won't be alone here anymore, but we have to share because there are so few places to ride like this in Northern Norway, at least where I live, that I know of at least. Look at this cool tree, by the way. So now we are getting closer to where it starts to flatten out, and we are soon getting past the tree limit, as we say in Norway. I'm still amazed by this bike. I really enjoy riding this bike. Actually, after I fixed it, I think I have been riding more on this old Africa Twin than my new CRF 1000. I still love my CRF 1000, but it's just something with this bike that it's hard to explain, but I really love it. I guess it might have something to do with the fact that it's lighter, and the seating position is also much lower, so I can reach the ground much easier. And my CRF 1000 is still in pretty much mint condition. I've never crashed on it. I've only laid it down one time, and the ground was soft. It was kind of moss, so no damage at all. That was actually on my way down from Strynefjell. I was taking the old road, which I highly recommend. It's beautiful, and I was going to take some pictures, and I rode a little out of the road, so then I tipped over, so nothing big. I've laid down the XRV a couple of times, and it's kind of easier for my mind somehow, because it's not perfect, so it doesn't matter. And I think that's the best relationship you can have to a vehicle, actually. Right now I'm passing an area where a few years ago there was a bear crossing the road here, so I always think about that when I sit down and enjoy my food, but it's not normal to see bears up here, so nothing to be afraid of, I hope. I'm only bringing one GoPro on this ride because I was kind of frustrated because I couldn't get the multicam editing to function in Premiere Pro, or the syncing of the video, so I'm still working on that. So that's just the way it is, so it's kind of boring, and you still have to look through the windshield. Sorry for that once again. I am still using the camera gear that I bought used, which was 2 Gopro Hero 6 and a DJi Mavic Pro drone. The Mavic Pro was introduced in 2017, so it's very old, and I also have to bring another cell phone to attach to the controller because my normal phone is too big for the controller, so that's a real pain in the ass, I think. And the place where I live is a military area, so you're not allowed to fly a drone, so that makes practicing much more difficult. So on this ride I'm actually out also just to test the drone and see how it works. For the 2025 season I have upgraded the camera gear and bought 2 GoPro Hero 13s and a Mavic Air 3. So I'm looking forward to using them instead of the old gear. But as far as I'm concerned, you can make great videos with old gear too. You don't necessarily have to have the newest equipment.
Her i rumpa.
This is where I stopped to have some food and a little break, and judging by the sound I must be Bigfoot or a Sasquatch or whatever it's called. That's a little funny. So I want to tell you a little about my motorcycle history. As I mentioned in the previous video, my very first moped was a Honda PX50, and when I was 13 or 14 I got a Suzuki CR50 SK, and that was a moped I had my entire youth, and I still have it today in the garage, and it actually still runs, even though it has a rat look, you can say. It's full of rust and looks totally like a wreck, and the only thing that works is the rear brake and engine, but it's rideable. So I had a lot of fun on that moped, and it's got 54,000 kilometers on the clocks, and it's been many years since the speedometer stopped working, so it actually has a few thousand more kilometers, which I think is good on a old moped engine. Real good Suzuki quality there. At the same time, when I was 14, I also got my first dirt bike, which was a Kawasaki KX125, a 1993 model, the one with the blue forks and the blue seat with pink letters. And I still remember the first time I ever tried a dirt bike, which was a 94 RM125. The feeling when you go from a moped and to the dirt bike, it's just impossible to explain. To this day, I have never encountered such a feeling whatsoever. The only thing that I think maybe can compare is if I ever get to try a 500, a KX or a CR. That's a dream. As you can see, by the way, the scenery has changed a little, because this footage is from a late summer ride I had up here, and now I'm heading for Tjordavannet. And as you can see later, the lake is really beautiful. It's blue or light blue, grey maybe. And this is also where you are crossing in and out of the Swedish border several times. So the next bike I got was a 1981 Suzuki GSX 400e, and at that time I was just 17, so I didn't have the license, but I did ride around on it, because that's the advantage of coming from a small place. When I was 18, I had been able to, for the first time in my life, to save some money, and I bought a 2001 Kawasaki KX250. I really loved that bike, and it got a lot of abuse. That bike never failed on me. I had it for some years, and I also had some ice and studded tires for it. And this one time I went through the ice with it, so it got soaked, which I also did. But I managed to get the bike up and got it running, and that was a pretty tough experience, so it ended up with me selling the bike. Then I was without any bigger bikes for a while, and eventually when I got my motorcycle license, and the first real bike I got was a Kawasaki C1000 2003 model, a black bike. I'll tell you more about that later, but now let's see some pictures from the Skjomen Mountains. I rode around 30,000 kilometers on the C1000, and I really remember those days. Your first real proper motorcycle. It's the best feeling in the world. And my best friend also bought a C1000. We picked it up in Tromsø and actually got it home by the old Norwegian Hurtigruta. It was craned aboard the ship, so that was a special experience. But one day when I was out on my boat, my friend called me, and he was sitting at the hospital, and he had been out riding with a friend, and the friend had crashed and actually died. So that was really, really sad, and I still remember it, the sadness in his voice, and it was just horrible. So that ended up giving me some strange feelings about riding motorcycles. So I ended up using the bike as a trade-in for buying a new Yamaha Nitro MTX 162 snowmobile that I don't regret, because that sled has given me so much fun. But the next summer I actually bought a new bike, which was a 1973 Yamaha XS 650, and that was an awesome bike in a totally another league compared to the C1000. Sadly, the engine had a knocking sound, so I sold it only after riding 1700 kilometers. So now I'm riding out of Skjomen towards Narvik, and this road is actually pretty funny with some twisties, so I really like it. I plan to maybe ride up to the alpine skiing hill in Narvik and see if it's possible to ride to the top of the hill. I think there's supposed to be an ATV road. At least it looks like it on Google Maps, so we'll have a look. Anyways, after I sold the XS 650, I bought a KTM SM640 LC4, a supermotard that I had for some years, and I was actually very happy with that bike because it was really light and fun in the twisties, and it wasn't mint condition either, so I used it like a workhorse really. And I also bought an SMC 690 2008 at the same time, so I had those two bikes at the same time. But eventually I sold the old one and kept the newer one. That's just the way it is. But I did miss having a bike that was good to take on longer rides, so I came across a C1000, a 2003 model, the same as I had before. This was an orange one that was for sale, only 2.5 hours to drive from where I live. So I ended up buying it, but now we are going up in the mountains of Narvik. Just hang on a little. So here we are at the top of the Alpine skiing hill. I have my doubts that it's actually legal to ride up here, but as far as I'm concerned, if you're too concerned with complying with laws and regulations, you will have less adventure. Yeah, that's for sure. So it's a really beautiful view from up here, and I accidentally forgot to turn on the GoPro when I went up here, but you can join me on the way down. So anyways, I rode around 30,000 kilometers on the orange 7000 also, but after a while I felt that I kind of wanted a slower bike, because very often when I got home I regretted something that I did or something that happened. So I started looking for another bike again, and this time I got my eyes on a Husqvarna Nuda 900, and I found one for sale just 2.5 hours drive from me, and it was actually the same guy that sold me the C1000 that had it for sale, and he was actually missing it. So I ended up trading in the C1000 plus some extra cash to him, so I could get the Nuda 900. And the Nuda was really cool and looked awesome, and it did come with some panniers, so my plan was to take it for longer rides. But it didn't take long before I realized that this was not the right bike. One thing that really annoyed me was that if there was just a little rain or water on the road, it would squirt up from the rear tire and hit you on the back, so you became wet on the back immediately. So I just couldn't live with that. So I put the Nuda up for sale in the winter time when I had started to look at the CRF 1000, and I got the Nuda sold, and I bought the CRF 1000 Adventure Sports 2018 model from Oslo, and since then I've never looked back. I've ridden around 33,000 kilometers on the CRF now, and I just love it. Now I also got this old XRV, and home in the garage I also have a WR450F that I have plates on, so I can ride legally at the roads and take some woods rides here and there. I really like it. So we are getting closer to the town now. I actually lived 2 years in Narvik when I took my mechanical education, but I have never been up in the skiing hill, because I don't ski, or I do ski but just cross-country skiing, so the steep hills are not for me. I would like to ride my snowmobile up there, but I guess that would be even more illegal than what I'm doing right now. So So I'm headed home now after a great day on the bike up in the mountains. I really hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you have, please like and subscribe. The next video is going to be a winter movie with the WR450F and some snowmobile riding. So hope to see you again, and until then, we are out.